Solving cubic equations. So now we've gone and factorized polynomials. We've done the long division of polynomials. Now we do one of the main reasons why we factorize. One of the reasons we go through this, what we're going to do is we're going to solve for x. So much like a quadratic, we try to factorize a quadratic first, make it all equal to 0, and then what we can do is we can solve accordingly. So in order to do this, we need to solve much like we've done there. We need to go and factorize this lovely, and then we're going to go and get it all very much into very splendid brackets, and then make each bracket equal to 0. So let's start with this first one. Solve each of the following for x cubed plus x squared minus 24x plus 36 equals 0. So we need to find something that is a factor. Looking at this, I see a 24 and 36. I reckon if I put ones in there, I'm not going to cancel those out. So I'm going to try 2, because 2 is a factor of 36. And I reckon just with that squared and that cubed, might just go and cancel out. So let's try p of 2. So remember what I'm doing here is I'm substituting the number 2 here. And if this ends up equaling 0, then I have found a factor. So this becomes 8 plus 4 minus 48 plus 36. And then we get 48, take away 48, because 8 plus 4 is 12, 12 plus 36 is 48, take away 48, and huzzah, we have a 0. So that means that we've got this very lovely factor of x minus 2 is a factor. So now we just need to go and do some long division. And once again, as I've mentioned before, some people just prefer just to keep going and doing slog after slog after slog, trying to find factors that way because they dislike long division so much. If you're on that camp, that is fine. You keep doing what you do you. Whatever works for you. So we're going to go like this. We're going to go x minus 2. We're going to go and divide this accordingly. X cubed divided by x is x squared. X squared times by x is x cubed. X squared times negative 2 is negative 2x squared. Minus these lovelies. So the x cubed, take away x cubed is 0. X squared minus 2x is going to make that 3x squared. And we're going to bring down this negative 24x. Then we're going to divide this lovely 3x squared divided by x. Well, that's going to get us positive 3x. And we're going to multiply this friend in here. So 3x times by x is going to be 3x squared. 3x times by negative 2. Well, it's going to be minus 12. No, 12. Silly me. 3x times by positive 3x times by negative 2 is going to be negative 6x. 3x squared, take away 3x squared is going to be 0. Negative 24x minus 6x, so that means it's going to be plus, is going to be negative 18x. I'm going to bring down this positive 36. Negative 18x divided by x is going to be negative 18. And then we're going to negative 18 times by x is negative 18x. Negative 18 times 2 is going to be positive 36. And huzzah, everything's worked out because we've got a 0 remainder. So our answer, so the factorized form so far is x minus 2, x squared plus 3x minus 18. Now we need to get that other, and it's all equal to 0. We need to go and break up that quadratic. Is there two numbers in the world that multiply together that would get negative 18 if I times them together, add together to get positive 3? I dare say there is. X plus, no, x plus 6, x minus 3. There we go. And now we just need to make each of those brackets equals to 0. So they're using the Null Factor Law. If you remember, the Null Factor Law is that if I've got two brackets equal to 0, it means one bracket equals 0 or the other bracket equals 0. So therefore, either x minus 2 equals 0, x plus 6 equals 0, or x minus 3 equals 0. So x is equal to 2, x equals negative 6, or x can be equal to 3. So as my final answer, grammatically it's always better to go from smallest to largest. Doesn't really matter though. That's me solving that for x. Now, for these ones, these are delightful heffalump trap questions, I find, because the gut instinct here is we see a 2x cubed equals 16x, and we think, oh, well, that would be a good idea just to cancel out the x's. Never cancel out the x's, because that will lose one of your solutions. Never cancel out an x. If that's one thing you remember between now and your final exams, never cancel out x's in this regard, because you will lose a solution. So what I'm going to do here, and the reason is that inevitably you'll lose the 0 solution, and we'll talk more about that a little bit later. So I'm going to minus 16x on both sides, and I get 2x cubed minus 16x is equal to 0. And then I can take a common factor out of x here. So x is 2x squared minus 16. In fact, actually, silly me, why not take a factor of 2x out, and then that can become minus 8 equals 0. And there we go, so that becomes, because we've got the 2 out there, we divided that by 8, so that becomes either 2x equals 0, or x squared minus 8 equals 0. So we've got either x equals 0 or x squared equals 8. X is equal to plus or minus the square root of 8, which we should always write as a most simplified surd. So that's going to be 2 root 2. So x is equal to 0 or negative 2 root 2. 0 to root 2. Now, had we have cancelled the x's, so let's just say we cancel the x's, you would have got 2x squared equals 16, you got x squared equals 8, you would have x squared is equal to plus or minus 2 root 2, and there you go, your 0 solution disappears as well. So that's why it is so important not to cancel out the x's, and so you've got all 3 solutions written there. Okay, the next one here, I've got 2x minus 1 cubed equals 32, so I may as well divide both sides by 2. And we get x minus 1 cubed is equal to 32 divided by 2 is 16. We're going to take the cube root of both sides, and we get x minus 1 is equal to the cube root of 16. Now, at this stage, I would highly recommend, I mean, it's not that important. I don't like having the root symbols in there. I'm going to just label that as 16 to the power of 1/3. Because then I can also simplify that, because that is the same as saying, what would be the best way to do this? I can either say it's 4 squared to 1/3. No, let's do as simple as humanly possible. Let's go. So that's 2 to the power of 4. So 2 to the power of 4 to the power of 1/3. And if you remember your index laws, there we go. Do to the power of 4 over 3. And we can add 1 on both sides. So it becomes 1 plus 2 to the power of 4 over 3. I imagine some textbooks will probably have that as 4 to the power of 2/3. But that is just a lot nicer than having this horrible big cube root sticking in your answer somewhere. And it is nice and simple in that regard. In case you missed where I got this 1 from, I just added 1 on both sides from that minus 1 over there.